So I'm going to speak about what policymakers should know about the risks and impacts of AI, but I wanted to start with two stories first to ground that. So the first is a tale of 3 leaked audio clips from India, Sudan, and from West Africa that were assessed by a deepfakes rapid response task force that Witness coordinates, that receives escalations from global majority world fact checkers, journalists, and rights defenders. These incriminating, inconvenient audio clips were claimed to be deepfaked, not real. And in one case, it was conclusively proved that, with the shared input of the experts on the task force, that the clip was authentic. In one case, it wasn't possible to make a conclusive determination. And in the third case, it was likely the audio was real, not AI, despite the politicians' claims that it was falsified. So one starting takeaway from that story is we're entering an even more messy world, where even experts cannot rapidly sort out true from false, and where the ease of calling deepfaked on something real is increasing. Second anecdote. A West African journalist attended a witness consultation in Nairobi where human rights defenders, fact checkers, social movement leaders, and technologists assessed some of the risks and threats they see and anticipate, and the solutions they want. And one element they explored was how easy and rapid it now is to falsify images that look real. And the journalist was explaining how recently his government flat out denied that an incident of police violence recorded on camera had occurred. It took him multiple days using geolocation, visiting the site of the incident, interviewing witnesses to confirm conclusively that it had taken place. His comment to the group: in that time, so many other stories, so many other falsifications with impact would have taken place. So the easier it is to claim reality as false or make fake reality, the two sides of this, the harder that triaged response that journalist was describing becomes for frontline defenders, let alone our expectations of ordinary people, the sort of media literacy version of source checking, lateral reading that we want to demand of them, or we hope to demand. So 5 years ago, I initiated a civil society effort at Witness to, as we described it, prepare, don't panic around deepfakes and now tech like multimodal generative AI. And our work at Witness involves consultation with diverse communities, with lived and practical experience, research and advocacy engagement on technical standards, and work on government and platform policy. And it provides a lens that many of us in the room know into how too much AI discussion is detached from the realities of communities who know best, dehistoricized from existing harms, from continuity of problems rather than novelty, and from learning from past and present battles for equality and justice, and in particular ones, for example, around social media and content moderation that frequently come up in our discussions around AI. Given that, I'd highlight 3 key things, and then I'm going to give a specific on each, that policymakers are missing about the risks and impacts of AI. First, very evidently, they're missing voices from the front line who identify AI's existing harms. Next, policymakers are missing the knowledge of those individuals and communities, their multidisciplinary expertise, and their trust in their experience that is lived and practical, as well as technical and professional. And finally, policymakers are not clearly hearing those communities' needs and preferred solutions translated into policy, technology, and resources. So let me get specific on these areas one by one in relation to the work that Witness does on fragile frontline information ecosystems. So what do communities we work with identify as risks and harms? They exist already with a volume of deceptive information. AI threatens to compound this with further realistic falsehoods, undermining evidence and further straining journalistic capacity. Lack of public understanding and gaps in access to detection also allow for this rich vein of plausible deniability that those rapid response cases demonstrate. People we talk to worry about single deepfake items deceiving publics, but also the broader corrosive compounding impact on trust. And of course, many activists and journalists have experienced how synthetic sexual images expand an existing problem. Then they point to ensuring that journalists and human rights defenders are resourced and supported, including with the tools to fortify the truth and the reliability of their reporting in the face of more skepticism. This also means addressing the gap in access to detection skills and tools that currently means those who need them most globally do not have the ability to reliably determine authentic from synthetic. And finally, they point to core needs in the technical and policy responses. One, that these be grounded in a global human rights-based approach that considers, for example, with synthetic media, how to reconcile satire with free expression and privacy, and directly recognizes who is disproportionately and differentially impacted by these technologies. Next, that we don't blame the end consumer, the end user, the end citizen, people, for not spotting the Pope in a puffer jacket, but instead place firm responsibility across the AI and content pipeline, from foundation models to APIs to platforms to apps to platforms and distribution channels, to ensure transparency and accountability. But when it comes to media content, also that people can understand the media they're consuming in an AI-infused age. Approaches to this pipeline responsibility need to be done in a way that recognizes global realities and human rights. For example, transparency and disclosure efforts such as verifiable watermarking and provenance approaches that try and help humans and machines understand, is this image or video or audio what it claims to be? Was it made or modified by AI or humans? These are promising signals to support informed digital participation, but only if human rights and accessibility concerns are central to their design, regulation, and implementation. One caution we've heard loud and clear globally is around how a signal that a piece of content has been created or modified with AI should not be inherently conflated or bound up technically with the identity of an individual. AI creation is about the how, not the who, when you place this in real-world complex circumstances. So let me end and say, if we want to avoid the confusion, the harm, and the distrust that the rapid response cases, going back to my first story, hint at, in the coming years, policymakers need to listen to those missing voices, missing knowledge, and missing needs. Thanks.